Hey, hey, hey! Welcome back to another episode of the House Husband Diaries. Today, we are talking about, or I'm going to share some stories about that time that I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch in the mall. And it also happens to be the last time that I ever stepped a foot in an Abercrombie store because I may have gotten all of the managers fired. Unintentionally, of course. So it was a summer between my junior and senior year of college, and I transferred from one college to another after my freshman year. So I lost like 8 credits for no apparent reason. It's just ridiculous. So I had to go to summer school. So I had to stay up at college, go to summer school, get a couple extra credits, and needed a job to pay rent and everything. So I went to the mall. I didn't know what to do. My undergrad major was in advertising, was journalism and mass communication with a concentration in advertising. So it's basically an advertising degree, which I didn't want to do anything with. Apparently, you have to go to a big city and get paid nothing and wait 20 years, and then maybe you'll make it as like an art director or something. And I just wasn't interested in it. The reason why I picked advertising as a major is because it seemed like the easiest possible major at school, at the university. I went to UNC. So I was like, yeah, I went to this really difficult, academically strenuous high school, and basically you major in advertising, you come up with witty one-liners, a couple of images, and bang, like there you go. So that was fun for me. So one of my roommates is now a dentist, and he's studying biology and chemistry and all of these difficult things. And I'm like, he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm watching TV for homework because I need to watch the commercials." And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "No, it's my major. It's advertising." So anywho, I don't know what I was taking. I took a lot of phenomenal courses. Like Gardens of Japan and Consciousness and Symbols were 2 of the anthropology courses that I took. They were just, it was awesome. Probably not worth the admissions, the amount of money that was paid for my undergraduate degree, but have at it. So I'm in summer school. I don't really know what to do for a summer job. And I'm like, I like some jeans at Abercrombie. Like some of their shirts, they're really expensive, like way too expensive. So why don't I just try to get a job there? I'll get some discounts, and how hard can it be? One thing that I will say before I get into this other thing is having worked in retail at a clothing store now, regardless of your judgment of being Abercrombie and Fitch, it was phenomenal for me to have that experience, because now, like, folding clothes is no big deal. My wife hates to do laundry, and I had to do laundry in high school, I did laundry in college. I've been doing laundry a long time. I don't really mind laundry, but also working in a clothing store and folding all of those jeans and shirts and everything, like that just, I don't know, like that just does not bother me anymore. Like I can fold stuff in a heartbeat. It may not be 100% perfect, but it's good enough for government work, as they say. And any children out there that watch this, if you want a summer job, clothing stores do not pay well, but it pays dividends in other ways in life. Not like, life experience, but it helps. I can fold clothes faster than I should, or I would otherwise. So fast forward, go to the Abercrombie and Fitch at this mall in Durham, North Carolina, and basically you just sit there. It's a group interview. I call, whatever, I show up, and they're like, "Come back, we're having this interview." And so you show up, and it's like, I don't know, half dozen kids, teenagers, early 20s, and we're all sitting there, and they're telling us kind of about the job, and they say, "We'll let you know. Like, we'll give you a call in the next couple days." And you're like, "What?" Like, I didn't do anything. Like, there was no There's no interview, nothing really. So I got a call back, and they're like, "Hey, you can start." I'm like, "What? How did this work?" So now that I'm an employee, fast forward a few months, they're like, "Hey, we need to do these interviews. Some of the managers are gone. Uh, just go sit there and like help this person do an interview." So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, like I'm trying to get to know the people, and then I walk in the back and they're like, "Yeah, it's just looks. Like you don't really care about whether the person is intelligent or whatever. Like, will they be a good model for the clothes?" And I was like, "You were kidding me." So my interview a few weeks or months ago, like with all those other people, is just basically, do you look good enough in whatever person's eyes to wear those clothes? And you don't even have to be like, hot damn sexy. It's just, do you look good enough? Will you be like a decent enough do you look better than the other 4 or 5 people, that show up? So basically, if I had showed up with a whole bunch of male models, I wouldn't have gotten a job. They would have all been chosen, and I wouldn't have been chosen. Whatever, so be it. So the funniest thing that ever happened with that was apparently these two girls show up with the same first name. They had different last names, but one girl was apparently slim and fairly attractive. I don't know. I wasn't there. And this other girl was above ginormous. Like, she was a big girl. And Abercrombie Fitch does not make, or did not, I don't know. I haven't stepped foot in 20 years, basically, in 15, 20 years in an Abercrombie store. But they, at the time, didn't make like plus size clothing or clothing for big people. That just wasn't a deal for them. And, who knows, maybe they have started making stuff for larger people, because we have an obesity endemic here in the U.S., and it's only grown worse over the last 15, 20 years. But at the time, they didn't make plus size clothing. And so one of the managers who wasn't at the interview, saw the notes written down, like, call these people have a job. Well, they called the wrong, I'll just say her name's Ashley. I don't know. They called the wrong Ashley. They called the big girl. And they said, "Hey, show up, you have a job." Well, whatever, some shift I'm on, this big girl Ashley shows up, and she's like, "Hey, I'm here. I was told to show up. I have a job." Well, the manager that was on duty was not the manager that made the phone call, was not the manager that was at the interview. And so that manager is like, "There must be a mistake. Like, you don't have a job here. Like, you could never have a job here." And the girl was like, "No, so-and-so told me that I have a job." And that manager was like, "Oh shit, you just name drop, like, somebody." Like, so now they've got to call this manager who's not on duty, whatever, he's not working, and they're like, "Did you give this girl a job?" And he's like, "Ashley, yeah, no, totally." And they're like, "Ashley's like ginormous." And he's like, No, there were like 2 Ashleys, and I wanted the skinny one." And they were like, "Well, this is the big one, and she's here saying that she got a call from so-and-so." So then they call this other manager, and the other manager's like, "Well, yeah, I was told to call this Ashley girl," and it was this whole screw up. So they had to tell this girl, "There's absolutely no way you can work here, because you have, like, part of the job is you have to wear the clothes for the upcoming season. So you're a model for whatever." So people walk in and they're like, "Hey, those are nice jeans," or that's a cool shirt. And you're like, "Yeah, you can get it. It's right up here." And, we don't make clothes in your size. So there was a mix up. There was another Ashley. How that girl, maybe that girl did sue Abercrombie. I have no idea. Like, I was only there a few more weeks or a couple of months after this, and I was, just a regular low paid college worker. So I don't know any of the details, but I'm 100% sure if that happened today, Abercrombie would be sued, and that person would retire for life. So maybe I should eat a bunch of cheeseburgers and go try to get a job at Abercrombie, and then just retire, buy me a boat, and be in the South Pacific somewhere, recording House Husband Diary episodes. But anyway, so that was like my first red flag with Abercrombie. I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, so not only is this place completely shallow and only about physical looks, But now they're like, they don't even honor like the job because they make a mistake. It's just terrible. So we have to in the middle of the night every season when it changes, they take a bunch of people that work. If you never worked in retail, they get a whole bunch of workers and they say, hey, like we're gonna get pizzas, but we're gonna work through the night because we've got to change the store over. And you only like once the mall closes at like 9, and then it opens again at 10 or whatever the next morning. Like we need to change the whole store around. We've got to get all of these clothes out. We've got to put all the new season clothes in, and it'll change it all around. And corporate sends all this stuff. So I was like, yeah, I love to. I love to stay up all night. Like I'm a night owl. Sounds completely fun. So unfortunately, the manager or assistant manager, I don't remember what he was at the time, that was going to be overseeing that change was a total douchebag. And you had to a verified shoe list. Like you couldn't wear whatever shoes you wanted. You could only wear certain shoes. And I wore these topsiders in that weren't an approved shoe, and he was like, "You can't wear those." And he made me switch into like rainbows or something. And then I come out, or he comes out of the back like an hour or two into my shift, and he's wearing my shoes, and he's got these big, fat, wide feet, and I have like long, skinny feet. And I was like, "What are you doing? Wearing my shoes?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, they're cool, man. Whatever." And I was like, "No, you like don't wear my fucking shoes. Like you just totally messed up my shoes because they're like leather, and you just whatever." He was a terrible human being. So we're out there changing all of the sets around, and there are these big heavy bars that hook up on the wall, and you hang all the jeans or the shirts. And he had one on his shoulder, and he said, "Hey, come here for a second." I said, "Okay, what do you need?" And as I walk up to him, he just lets it drop, like he just opens his hand, and this big heavy bar just slides down his shoulder, just like boom, like hits me in the chest. And I was like, what the fuck, bro? Why are you like, what is that shit? And he was like, "Oh, dude, don't worry about it. I'm just messing around." And I was like, "No, like, don't you ever hit me, ever. Like, don't you ever hit me again. I will beat your ass." Like, that is crazy. Why would you hit somebody? He was like, "Oh, I was just joking." And I'm like, "No, you don't. That's not a joke." And he was like, "Don't yell at me in front of my employees." And I was like, "Well, if you hadn't hit me, I wouldn't be yelling at you. And I'm not yelling at you. I'm just telling you I will end you if you ever do that again." And he was like, "I think you need to leave." And I was like, "I think that's a good idea." So it was like 3 o'clock in the morning or something outrageous. So I leave, and I'm feeling pretty bad because I'm competitive. I can get hot. I can lose my cool, my temper a little bit. But usually after I cool down, I feel bad and I apologize and stuff. And I was like, "Oh man, I lost my cool. I need to probably apologize to him. Like I shouldn't have reacted in that way." But let's be honest, like really wasn't that bad of a reaction. It's not like I hauled off and punched him. I just told him in not so nice words what I would do to him if he did it again. So the next day, I get a call from work, and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm in such trouble." Like I totally just went after a manager, and that's just not a good thing. So I get a call, answer the phone, and they're like, "Hey, so heard you and whatever the guy's name was, I don't even remember. I heard you got into it last night during the changeover." And I was like, yeah, sorry about that. It kind of, it sucked. And they were like, "Well, tell me your story." And I just told you, so I'm not going to share it again. And they were like, "Yeah, that's the story we heard." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry about that." And they were like, "No, well, we're calling because there was a petition that was started to get this guy fired because nobody likes him. And he was a jerk, and he treated you poorly, and we're sorry about that. Would you like to sign the petition?" And I was like, "Heck yeah. Like, why would I not want to sign that petition, Like, this guy's been a pain in my butt for months." And so I was like, "Yeah, well, that's not all. Like, the other reason why I lost my cool," and I told him about the shoe incident, and then I said, "Well, there's this other reason why why I lost my cool is because you get a certain number of discounts at Abercrombie, but you have to buy the upcoming season's clothes. and you get like, at the time, I think you got like 50% discounts, and then you got like, I don't know, a couple of like 30% offs, and then you could buy as much as you wanted at 10% off or 20. I don't remember what it was, but there were only a couple of 50% offs, and then there were a couple of other, percentages off. Well, this manager, assistant manager, whatever he was at the time, had called me over in the weeks prior and wanted to know what my store, my work number was, my ID, because he was giving his friends my discounts so that I couldn't use them. And I was like, that's wrong. I'm not giving you my discount. And he had like threatened me for something. So I was like, fine. So I gave him my number. And I told the manager this that was calling about it. And they were like, why did you give him that? And I'm like, because he was bullying me. And I just wanted a job for the summer. And I'm not trying to like get fired or whatever, him fire me and then go look for another job. I was terrible. So I just gave him the number and like, whatever. I'm not buying that much, that many clothes. So, whatever, it doesn't matter. And they were like, no, that's a huge deal because who knows who else. So they started asking around. He had been doing that. Well, somehow that got bumped up the chain to corporate at Abercrombie. So Abercrombie corporate sends like an auditor or an audit team to our store. And then the managers are like shitting bricks. And they're like, oh my God, corporate's sending this guy. And they're trying to find out if this guy really did do what I had said. And I was like, yeah, no, it's totally fine. Like they're going to find this guy's a jerk and totally broke all the rules. Well, what the auditor ended up finding was that all these managers at this store in Durham, North Carolina, they were using like all the 50% offs. They may have gotten more 50% offs or something, but they were like they were buying like entire seasons worth of clothes, like a whole wardrobe at 50% off. And then at the end of the season, they were exchanging every single one of those items for full price. So if it was like, I don't know, 60 or 80 bucks for a pair of jeans, they were getting them for 30 or 40 bucks. And then at the end of the season, they were returning them for 60 or 80 bucks and they were pocketing them 30 or 40. Well, you do that for, for what? For 10, for 10 clothing items, 40 bucks a pop, 30 bucks a pop, you're talking, $300, $400 4 times a year. You're talking, they're getting an extra $1,000, $2,000, maybe even $3,000 or $4,000 every year by just returning clothes at full price and purchasing them at half price. So I found this out. I was supposed to go in and somebody called me or somehow I, got an email. I don't even know how I found out about it. And I just didn't show up. Like, I got a call. They were like, you're supposed to be here. And I was like, I cannot show my face at this store. Like, apparently this one guy was like, I think I remember that like the head manager he was a super cool guy. He was going to get bumped up to like a Louisville, Kentucky store or something. I don't know. Had like a better sales. I have no idea. But anyway, there was this whole crazy, all these managers getting fired. And then I just was like, okay, I don't think I can ever show my face in an Abercrombie store. And even to this day, 15, 20 years later, I see an Abercrombie store. I don't know when the last time I was in a mall that had an Abercrombie, but I wouldn't even go in stores 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever the last time I saw them. Like, I was just like, yeah, like I'm kind of done with that company. Like that was so crazy. And, I don't know if those people ever, like, I'm sure they got jobs after that, but I don't know. That was the first time I'd ever experienced like terrible bosses and then being that close to people that were, stealing money from a company. It was just outrageous. So that was that time that I worked at Abercrombie and Fitch, and it was the last time that I ever walked into an Abercrombie and Fitch. Hope you enjoyed. See you on the next episode of the House Husband Diaries. Hope you have a good day.